Sure. We'll start with Laura, since you muted yourself. If you'll unmute yourself and present us. We haven't seen you since the election, so please introduce yourself and let us know what you've been doing.
It's so nice to be back with you here, with everyone. And it's nice to be here with Sheriff Nanos as well. And he just put his cell phone in the chat, which helps me remember that I need to do the same thing. I'm going to put email in the chat, but it's lovely to be back with DCSRA. And I wish we were in person, but I'm optimistically hoping that it could be that by the very next time we're with you, we could be in person. It's something to look forward to. For a brief moment, I think the right thing to note for a moment in time is that just about an hour ago, I heard that retired Mayor Bob Waka passed away, and I understand he had been in declining health for a long time, but he passed, I think, this morning. And to both him and Beth, his wife, I think they were such a team in public service. And anytime anyone is willing to do this kind of public service and put their life all the way out there in this way, most days being thankless, it's a chance to say thank you and to keep him and his family in our thoughts. So turning to this glorious and beautiful morning in this desert, waking up to snow, which delighted our 7-year-old boy, we can focus on the work at hand and the work we're doing. I'm sure the sheriff will agree with me that we have both just been running full steam, long hours, working very, very hard. And transitions bring change, and change is hard, but the potential truly in my office seems limitless. It's very, very exciting. I want to point out social media. We are using social media at the county attorney's office. So the Pima County Attorney has a Facebook page. It has a Twitter account and an Instagram account. We're relying heavily on that to communicate with you because we discovered that the website was a bit behind and couldn't even be built out. It was just kind of a single page. So we have a new website coming that's under construction. But in the meantime, the Pima County Attorney's Facebook page is kind of the key where I have been able to so far keep up with a Friday memo that comes out every Friday afternoon. And it's the week in justice in Pima County. And it's an update for the whole week, looking back every single Friday. So yesterday, Blair's Day, right? Yesterday was week 10 already, and they're all there. So you can catch up on the details of what we're doing. And please share that because I want to make sure that information is getting out, because it's for you. It's for Pima County. It's the people's office, and it's the people's data, right? So some highlights, I would say overall, internally, we came into office with a tremendous number of vacancies, and that's kind of an alarming situation in the short term, right? You want to keep things going and moving. In the long term, of course, the ability to hire talent is always a good thing for a new administration. So I will say that January was quiet. I think the whole nation was really dealing with yet another surge of COVID, looking back now. And maybe the community was giving me a grace period, but it was quiet. And I was kind of wondering, where is everyone? And then in February, we just started getting flooded with applications, which is wonderful. And it's so high quality. I can't even tell you, it's Fulbright scholars, I was looking for Spanish speakers, and they're here along with Portuguese and French and every other language, and people who have lots of experience who want to join, and brand new attorneys who want to start their career with us. So the future is really bright for the office internally. You may have heard that we had quite the COVID outbreak in the office in January, right after as I arrived, right after the holidays. We closed the building, which apparently was the first closure of the building ostensibly in its history, apparently. And I want to reassure that we had a lot of people who were very sick, but everyone seems to have improved. Everyone seems to have recovered and healed from that. And it gave us a chance to come up with a COVID protocol for the building and a vaccine plan that has gone well above our dreams of people vaccinating. It's not easy administrating in a pandemic, but getting people back into the building. And as painful as it was, it gave the new administration a real look, an unvarnished look at the system in place that makes the building run. In other words, it's like we closed the building and we might as well have just kind of shaken it up and down to see how things actually run, paper in, paper out. And we learned so much in those very painful 2 weeks, 2, 3, 4 weeks, until we started to get everyone back in the building. So that's been what's going on internally. We have more applicants than we have openings. It's a great problem, an embarrassment of riches. Externally, it's been an observation period of the system, a time to meet with partners, with the bench, with law enforcement, of course, with the court, the defense bar, all of the stakeholders, and the community, of course, to observe where we are and to move forward in a good, healthy, and responsible way. The Department of Criminology at ASU has given us PhD level help to study our data. And we're giving them 2020, but we're also giving them 2019 because the 2020 data is totally skewed because of the pandemic. It really isn't reliable. So 2019, I think, is better data of what the system was actually doing, so that we can study that data and then set detention and plea policies from a place of being educated and informed, and then ushering in reform as the community has directed us to do. There are a million projects we could talk about, but they're detailed pretty well in my weekly reviews, and then I should just let you ask questions about them, I think would be a better way to do it. But it's a lot of exciting different subcommittees and projects and all kinds of wonderful things. And I'll turn it over to Sheriff.
Thank you. Well, quite similar to Laura, I'll take the same route. I'll tell you some things internally and then externally, things that have gone on for us. Some of the same things, we had to reset our team. We have quite a vacuum at the top, number of chiefs left, captains, lieutenants. So our command structure really took a hit. But with that, I'm as excited as Laura. I think when you get new, young, vibrant people in there, it serves as a force of energy that really can help us. And so everybody is really pretty charged up and energized. We are just completing, we just had our lieutenant's process last week. We are having a sergeant's process complete this week. It is some great young talented men and women, and the diversification is really good to see. And so I'm excited too. We too were hit, we came into this we were kind of led to believe that our jail was in great shape, that we didn't have any COVID incidents, and that things were looking pretty good. But then we came in and on day one found out that that wasn't the case at all. In fact, starting on June 10th, they had tested the first inmate was found to be positive. And from then until January sometime, we discovered over 800 different people had been impacted by the virus. Actually, on day one, when we walked in, we had 250 inmates that were infected with the virus. Today, though, we are celebrating, and I'm going to knock on wood, our 21st day in a row of 0 cases in our jail. So very excited there too. In the middle of all of this stuff, though, that's going on with us, we did also get hit with having to administer 1,500 vaccinations to our staff. That was kind of a challenge, but Dr. Garcia's team did an excellent job. We did not mandate it. There was some talk about it, which, cops kind of do this number. You can't force me to do something I don't want. And we no, we think that if everybody wants to get back to normalcy, we need to do this. We need to step up as leaders and do this. And today we're at about 85 to 90% of our staff has actually vaccinated. We've gotten both vaccines and we're ready to go. I hate shots. A young lady gave me my shot in the arm, and I kind of looked away from her, and she says, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I just don't like shots." She goes, "Oh, don't worry." I said, "Well, just don't hurt me." She said, "Well, hurt you? Why would I hurt you? I voted for you." So I felt a lot better right now. So that was excellent. We are looking at a number of issues. Our staffing certainly is critical. I think everybody's heard from TPD Chief Magnus, the mess he's in, and that is really a tough position to be in, where you're trying to figure out what services to cut, what calls not to respond to. I hope to never get there. When I left there in 2016, we had as many as 1,540 employees. Today we have 1,376. So that's quite a reduction of about better than 10% in an area where crime and our calls for services just haven't been reduced at all to that level. So we're looking at that. I really don't want to sit here and pound the gavel and tell the Board of Supervisors I need more bodies without actually doing some studies. One of the things we're looking at is this. In the last 50 years, our department has never done anything with its districting. We've not changed our boundaries. We've not built new substations or anything of that nature. So I am taking a look at a few things. One, we had a unit that was designed to be, it was grant funded. It was going to be in the 3 Points area, 10 deputies, 2 sergeants, a lieutenant, and their role was to actually travel all the way to Sassabee and Arivaca and deal with calls for service down there. But the reality is that the calls for service down there were averaging about 1 or 2 a week. And the real problem for me with that was, you have a 3 Points area that in the last 10 years has lost 8.5% of its population. Yet you look at an area like Vail that has an average growth rate now of 19% over the last 10 years. So it just only made sense to move this team over there. I've worked with Mr. Huckleberry, the Board of Supervisors, to build a substation at the county fairgrounds right there at Houghton and I-10. That's in progress. The Raycon station was where that would respond to the Vail area. Sometimes driving time was 45 minutes to get to a beat. We look at the same problem though in the 3 Points area. That whole Sanavir district, the southwest side is exploding in growth as well. And so I just looked at it. Our station that services those areas can be an hour's drive away from the beats. That makes no sense. So we're looking now to build a station more central to that area where we can have 60-some deputies, commanders, supervisors in the area for a bigger presence and hopefully reduce our response times there as well. Foothills District, our northwest area, again, same thing. With 30, 40 years ago, we might have been in Foothills Beat 4, where 80% of it was county and 20% might have been Oro Valley and Marana. Well, today that's flipped. So we need to look at our district lines and maybe redo some of those things. Those are some of the things we're working on today. Hopefully we're working close with Mr. Huckleberry and the board. Give you an example for Vail and Green Valley. Green Valley averages about 7,200 calls a year, as does the Tucson Mountain area, the Abra Valley area, yet Vail averages 7,000. Vail is the only one without a substation. So we think there's some need there. Just as we've shown, the annexation has been great in the Oro Valley and Marana area, so we could probably look at the resources we have there and reset some of these things. As far as internal goal, I also want to talk a little bit about reform. I am really excited that when I came on board, such great programs, Wendy Peterson and Mr. Huckleberry's Pima County Reform Unit, they're working closely with the courts and the Justice Challenge, Terrence Chong, Kyle Bryce, and the Superior Court judges, and actually our county attorneys and public defenders, two units that were probably somewhat adversarial, are really working close together, and some of the things they're doing, I'm excited to be a part of. We're also going to work with Tucson Police and some of our social services with the deflection program to help better serve those who are afflicted with their, whether it be mental illness or drug addiction. But we're looking at all of those programs. They're great programs. I'm excited to be a part of those programs. We're meeting with other law enforcement leaders as well. Externally, this week we will be talking to all the chiefs in the area about how we handle our officer-involved shootings. I think that we could do a lot better in transparency, and I think I have a pretty good consensus from the other chiefs that we're going to try to formulate our own officer-involved, a regionalized effort where there's an officer-involved shooting team that has somebody from Sarita, somebody from Oro Valley, Marana, Tucson Police, our own, maybe even get the county attorney to talk to us about some direction and training to take this. But I think it benefits us all if we can have a criminal investigation, the officer-involved shooting portion, where that agency that's impacted by the shooter is on the outside working parallel investigation for their own internal matters. And the actual criminal portion is done by all the other agencies. Again, I think it goes to transparency and reform. And this is something I think this Friday afternoon I'll be meeting with all the chiefs. Looking forward to that. Body cameras, we've got those on the supplemental budget. The budget hearings start this April. I hear that that's going to happen for us. I'm excited for that. Our training, same thing, 86% of our training was being done for use of force tactics, physical training, those kinds of things. Left only like 14% for things like academics, communication skills, de-escalation. So we're trying to get a better balance there. One thing that struck me odd was our training staff consisted of 100% staff was from the SWAT team. And I love my SWAT team. When you need them, you want them, and they are talented. But I think we could do a better job than that. I don't think that focus is what you want when you're trying to develop true guardians and not warriors. And of course, then we're working to reduce the footprint of the jail. We recently gave back a 250-bed, our minimum security unit. We shut it down. I gave it back to Mr. Huckleberry to maybe try to repurpose it for a transitional housing. Right now we get people out of jail and we kind of give them a sack lunch and a bus ticket and out they go. Maybe we can do a little better than that. So I'm busy as can be. I'm excited to be here. I can hardly wait for this COVID thing to go around so I can get involved with my community. I am so busy. I've not been able to even get out to my own stations yet. I keep saying this is going to slow down, but I think what's happening is it's never going to slow down. We still have homicides to investigate and crimes to handle. I think I'm just going to have to speed up a little, but thank you for having me.
First question is, you unmute yourself, Laura, is for you. And it's kind of some of the things you've talked about already, but maybe a little bit further is, has everyone in your department received the COVID-19, and are the attorneys in the court still working remotely, or are you now in some type of sessions in the courthouse?
So I've had a really good experience with the county, as the sheriff mentioned, with Doctors Garcia and Cullen and Chuck Huckleberry, and we have a Masters of Public Health liaison in the building, which really helped coordinate the vaccine process, because we had not pitched to the county last year to get our people vaccinated. That was something that I discovered. And so I'm very excited to report that we're just like 84, almost 85% into the second shot, which is giving kind of the building its own internal herd immunity, which is really, for those who can't vaccinate medically, et cetera. So it's very, very good news there. I can't say, I'm with the sheriff. Anyone in the law enforcement realm, you're going to have some pushback, and we absolutely did too. And but so I wasn't even shooting for 85%. That number blew me away. As to the functioning of the system over at the courthouse, there is hope, knock on wood, that if we continue in this direction, they have trials set the first week of April, which is a first. The courthouse will have gone a full year with no jury trials. So this is a very big deal, very big shift, but that's the goal right now. It's been the goal for a couple weeks. It's still on target. And certainly that will bring some normalcy back and help with a backlog that the sheriff and I, both know a lot about. With no jury trials for a year, it's a backlog. We're already working on it, but we need jury trials to resume ultimately. The other place I'll just say, and I'm so excited to hear about some of what Sheriff is talking about. It's really nice for the two of us to be together for a whole hour. Time has not really allowed that yet. It will, so this is so helpful to me. And we did a full jail population review as far as who could we remove when the sheriff discovered how much COVID was getting into the facility. To see how many people we could remove. We understand that 1,300 is a better number for spacing people out inside the jail. And we have just been targeted on that. Our eyes are on that. And there's like the sheriff said, it's the defense bar, it's the court, it's the prosecutors all working together to try to get that number down to a healthier place.
That was 85%. What CDC protocol do the officers use when they are in the field or in the headquarters?
Well, and these were set in place before I got there, so we're very. I did get some help there where everybody comes into our building. You just can't walk in. You do get your temperature read, then they get date stamped, I call it. They put a little sticker on showing that, and you can walk around the building, but you have to stay masked up. If you're at your desk, working at your desk, you can remove your mask, but if you're anywhere in the building and mobile, you have to stay masked up. Everybody in my office area, there's 7 of us, has our second shot now for better than a month. So we do have some protection there, but even still, if we can't social distance, we need to be masked up. It's nothing more than following the CDC guidelines. I'll say this: when we first started the vaccines and we put out our policies, it was kind of difficult because people were saying, "I'm not going to do it. You can't force me." And we said, "We're not going to force you. But if you're not going to do it," we gave them a letter of declination to kind of sign, to just send to our risk manager saying that they don't want to take the shot. What we found was interesting was, probably a lot like me, they kind of want to sit back and say, "Well, that sheriff got his. How's he doing? Did he die? He's okay? All right, I'll get mine." And so it was kind of those kind of thinking, and I get it. That's okay. a lot of the people who initially had submitted those letters of declination called risk managers and says, I'll take my letter back. So, you know, it's human nature, I guess. And I understand there's really some valid concerns there with someone's own personal health decisions, and that's okay. But as Laura said, you know, yeah, we haven't been together yet, but I'll tell you what, it's kind of a breath of fresh air at 6:30, 7 o'clock at night. I get a phone call, and it's the county attorney because she's working at her desk as I'm at my desk, and you know, I think we both carry the same level of energy and excitement. We see some of the same challenges, but yeah, I think it's going well.
Thank you, Chris. And it's both great to have you in the offices that you are with the energy that you do bring. Laura, I have another question for you. I understand that you've started a fraud unit. How is that working and how is that protecting us against fraud?
Yes, thank you so much for asking, because I think you all know that this idea was truly born in the Santa Rita area. It really was. It wasn't on my radar when I launched. You know, it wasn't, you know, how do they say, it wasn't one of the pieces of the platform, you know, the legs on the stool or what have you. And I had planned pre-COVID to go around the county, and I was geographically, and I started with you. And there wasn't a home untouched down there. There wasn't a home that didn't know a friend or neighbor or someone who had been at least targeted and you know, an attempted fraud, right? So when my team said that they wanted to launch the fraud unit in time for National Consumer Protection Week, which was week 8, I said, no, we cannot do that. And they said, oh, we will. And they did. They got it off the ground. The team is structured, it's there, and they got what I really, really, really wanted, which was the form. It's just a simple form that's easy to use on the website that's under construction. But that's the piece that is there. There's a fraud tab, and that piece actually exists, and we can actually take reports there. And it's so exciting to be able to have a local place to just seek help and say, this doesn't seem right to me. This is, you know, bothering me. I think there's something wrong here. And before, so in part of that launch, we had our first Southern Arizona Anti-Fraud Task Force meeting. And we had over 30 people there. We had a couple of just superstars, in particular from the Sheriff's Department, Detective Badine, I think if I'm pronouncing her name right, and who's just phenomenal and completely devoted to fraud. And so we had 30 people there from every agency across the county, because sharing intelligence on fraud can be very helpful, right? There's patterns. You report a pattern to us, like a method. Here's what the fraud looked like, or the attempted fraud looked like. And when we share that across the county, then we can educate before they get to the other spots in the county. Education is huge. We can prevent a lot of fraud this way, which, as the unit likes to say, prevention is far better than any prosecution we can launch. So that's certainly a point of excitement for us in-house. And we're really looking forward to just beefing up what the Attorney General's office does, what the U.S. Attorney's office does, and then having it rounded out with our office showing up and participating.
There's a quick question to follow up that real quick. Since the website is not up yet, can people call in?
Yes, there is a number there, but our website is there, and it says under, you know, our website's there. It's just kind of a shell, but it directs you right to the fraud button at the top, and that is there. That is working. It's just it's kind of a coming soon website, but the fraud tab is there and it's working. All of that, you know, all of that works, please share.
Yeah, I agree. I got my 2 Social Security being canceled this month, so the fraud is out and about, busy. Yeah, thank you. All right, Sheriff Nanos, a question for you to follow up on. Now that you're below 1,400, I think you said 1,376 number of officers on staff. How is the department handling response to quick calls, or are you prioritizing any of your calls? And how are you doing so?
Well, we've always prioritized our call loads. It's basically life before property, right? If somebody's facing an assault or a robbery or anything like that where they might be injured, we're going to respond to that before any property crime. I think our response times, I'm really not taking a close look at them because we're dealing so much with trying to get our people in the right places. I know that the rural areas, we've met with some of them and they are pleased, and those are the outliers. They're way out, and those are the ones that really have a big delay. So we're hoping that by shifting our resources around, they too will be taken care of, and we've so far done that. So yeah, I would like to touch on something about the fraud unit. I've known for a long time the Green Valley SABs have their scam squad in place up there, and they've worked really hard to keep people aware and do public safety awareness announcements and things. So I'm excited for Laura's program to take hold. Unfortunately, Detective Badina here has done very well on our sergeant's process. So although she may be promoted here soon, you may lose a fraud detective, but we'll find you somebody, I'm sure, that's just as talented.
Anything in particular having priorities? I know you said you're out talking to the substations in the rural areas. Is there anything number one on your list that you'd like to see happen in 1, 2, or 3?
Well, let me say this, and I've talked with Chief Magnus, and he is in a really hard way, because to me, the one thing you never want to do is, the last resort is cut services and cut staff. I can't imagine telling the community, anybody out there, that we're not going to respond to your call. I just don't know how you do that. So the priority has always been, I want all these reform units, right? I want my school resource officers. I want our mental health teams. I want all these different programs. But the reality is I can't do those if I can't do our basic job. That is, you call us and we come. It's pretty simple. And so that is the priority. We're not cutting anybody. We didn't come in and demote or fire or terminate. What we're trying to do is raise a sense of awareness with Mr. Huckleberry and the board to say, look, we want to be reasonable too. I don't want to come in there and pound a gavel saying I'm shorthanded, I need more bodies. Not without first looking at how am I deploying my resources as it is. Maybe 1376 is the right number. Maybe 1500 was too much. I don't think so. I think there's somewhere in the middle. I think we're going to find that right number, and we'll work with it. We'll play with it. Right now, though, my dispatch center, they too are critically short. They're down 30 bodies or so. It's tough. So we're hurting everywhere. It's a matter of prioritizing. My IT staff, right now we have an IT staff that is one IT support person for 135 people. Yet, if you looked at the county's IT system, it's 1 for 30. So we're looking at all of it, and we'll prioritize those jobs that we see as the biggest needs, and hopefully get things right here sooner than later.
Thank you, Sheriff. Laura, I have a question for you, and this is a hardball question, so it's about a case. So if you don't feel like you can respond to it, please let me know. Tim Stoller from the Arizona Star wrote that the wall tied your hands for the new county on a key case. Quote, quote, if is how you're working, how are you working to get out of the shadows of the wall, if you are?
So one of the things that I have to tell the media when they call over and over and over again is to just kind of remind them that the ethical rules don't allow me to talk about pending litigation, and my own sense of ethics and general principles also keep me away from talking about personnel issues. So it's limiting. It's limiting because everyone who's retired is continuing to comment. What I can say is that what I can say following that article is that we had an office-wide meeting on Thursday, kind of in response to that really in-depth long article, where we took a step back and I had told the office that we weren't going to have politics in the building. You know, our job is to do the right thing. There's no politics in the building. But maybe my fervor over that had meant that we didn't talk about history, and we have to learn from history. So we took a look at what the community voted for and demanded in 1996. And in that three-way Democratic primary, the toughest on crime, the platform that was the most tough on crime was the one that won, was the one that carried the day. By 2020, the community had a very different demand and an overwhelming one. And so what I think we've been trying to talk about is that no matter how much the previous administration might disagree with our plans, it's not my plans. I'll just be replaced tomorrow by someone else who represents, you know, the overwhelming majority of the community who's asking us to take a different look and to look at data and policies driven by data and to try to move us down the road in a healthier direction. So we defined criminal justice reform nationally and then locally, and had a really productive conversation about what it is that the community is absolutely calling for and requiring of us. And we focused on the positive and moving forward. And I think it was, we've had really great feedback on not being distracted or deterred by a real tiny minority that's having trouble moving forward. That we can't be distracted or deterred. We must focus on our mission of public safety and victim representation and criminal justice reform for a healthier way forward.